This section of the policy discusses the Iredell County Personnel Ordinance Article 2, the Pay and Position Classification Plan. The primary purpose of Article 2 is to ensure that wages paid to county employees are externally competitive, internally equitable, and are linked to the county's goals and objectives. Wage increases are based on the county's financial resources and may be amended annually by the Board of Commissioners. When positions are allocated to a particular job grade, the qualifications, skill, and educational requirements, as well as responsibility, the difficulty in the job, and the working conditions are all considered. The Human Resources Director will recommend the appropriate allocation of the position to the county manager for approval. The slide you are now viewing is an example of the salary scale. Each position within Iredell County is assigned a grade. To the left of your screen, you see grades 50, 51, 52, and so forth. Grade 50 is the lowest grade in the organization, and grade 96 is the highest. The grade is used to determine the pay range for the skill level that is required for the job. So the higher the grade, the higher skill and more complex the position duties are. This does not represent the individual in the job and their personal skill level. At the top of the slide you see steps 0, 1, 2, and so forth. This represents steps in the salary scale. There is a 0.5% difference between each step. The step is used to determine the individual's salary based on their personal experience and education. So let's say that the position which you applied for is a processing assistant grade 58. You come to work or you're promoted to this position, but you have the bare minimum education and experience that is required for the job. Then you may be brought in at step 0. Or let's say that you're moved into a position in a grade 58 and you have ample years of experience and you also have the education. In that case, you may be hired or promoted higher than a step 0 up to the maximum step 88. Positions may be studied for reclassifications either during the budget process if there are substantial changes in job duties, or the department head is requesting a reorganization. They may also be studied if there are unusual underlying circumstances throughout the year. Otherwise, all positions are set up to be reviewed every 4 years through an annual salary study. A probationary employee may be given a 4.5% increase after completing their probationary period under the following circumstances. The employee must have successfully completed the probationary period, and the employee must have been hired at or promoted to step 8 or below. However, the Board of Commissioners has frozen this since approximately 2008 due to funding. Merit increases are normally awarded for excellence in work performance and are awarded at your annual evaluation. However, this benefit has been determined by the Board of Commissioners to be frozen at this time. Employees are paid at a rate within the salary range that is established for the position which you are in. If you are in a trainee status, or your salary is above the maximum of the salary range, which as previously discussed, that maximum is at step 88, you will not receive an increase unless the position is reclassified, which means that the position's skill level has been evaluated and it has been determined that your position should be moved to a higher and more comparable grade. Or if you're promoted. Or if the salary scale for the present position should be increased. For example, if a cost of living raise is awarded, that would move the salary ranges on the steps within the salary schedule. At the recommendation of the department head and with the approval of the Human Resources Director, trainee positions may be deemed appropriate if there are no qualified applicants for a position. The trainee time frame ranges from 6 to 12 months. Any time beyond 12 months requires county manager approval. Employees who are subject to the State Personnel Act will be subject to rules and regulations as established by the Office of State Personnel. The standard increase for a promotion is 4.5%. A voluntary demotion may result in a salary reduction within the same range. If a position is reclassified to a lower grade, the employee's current salary remains the same. If a position is reclassified to a higher grade, the employee receives a 4.5% increase. Employees who transfer from one position to another and in the same grade may continue to receive the same salary. There are occasions where an interim position is necessary. An interim is used to temporarily fill key positions until a permanent hire can be made. Those serving in an interim status will receive a 4.5% increase or higher with the county manager's approval. At the completion of the interim assignment, the employee's salary shall revert back to the previous rate. No employee should work overtime without prior approval from the department head or supervisor. The exception would be if there was an emergency situation. In that case, the supervisor should be notified as soon as possible. An emergency is defined as any condition that could reasonably result in damage to property or persons and requires immediate attention. Law enforcement officers receive overtime for hours worked over 86 in a 14-day work period. EMS works a fluctuating work week, which means that they will receive overtime at the half-time rate for hours worked over 40 in a 7-day work period. Most non-exempt employees receive compensatory time off rather than pay for overtime hours. It is standard that employees receive compensatory time, and during your on-site orientation, you will sign an agreement stating that you understand you will receive comp time at time and a half for all overtime hours worked. However, there are specific departments that receive pay as opposed to comp time based on the needs of that department. In addition, most departments calculate overtime based on the standard 40-hour work week. However, this also is different for those employees who work at EMS and the sheriff's office or jail. Please see your department head to determine the specifics as to how you will be compensated for overtime. Lastly, sick leave, holiday, or vacation is not counted when computing overtime hours. So for example, 35 hours worked plus 8 hours of vacation in the work week equals a total of 43 hours. The 3 hours will be straight time because you did not physically work over the 40 hours. The accrued comp time that you earn must be exhausted before you take sick or vacation. You must also request to use your comp time from your supervisor. The standard 40-hour-a-week employee may not accrue more than 75 hours of comp time, and public safety employees may not accrue more than 100 hours. In the event you are called back to work outside of your regularly scheduled work hours, you will be paid at least 2 hours of wages. Because departments vary on how employees are compensated for on-call or standby pay, please see your department head for additional specifics as it relates to your position. Exempt personnel may receive hour-for-hour comp time for hours worked over 48 in a work week. The comp time is limited to a maximum of 80 hours, and you are not entitled to be paid out for any unused time if you leave employment. Again, this applies to exempt personnel only. This slide exhibits an example of an exempt employee accruing hour-for-hour comp time. During week 1, the employee works 50 hours, which is 2 hours over the 48-hour mark. During week 2, the employee works another 50 hours, which again is 2 hours over the 48-hour mark. Therefore, the exempt employee will receive 4 hours of hour-for-hour comp time. In extenuating circumstances, the county manager or department head may authorize pay for exempt personnel when an employee is required to work outside of the normal work hours. Department heads, division heads, and managerial employees are excluded from this benefit. An exempt employee is required to work the number of hours necessary to ensure satisfactory performance of their duties. An adjustment of these hours may be made in lieu of the use of accrued leave during a 14-day work period when the number of hours worked is 80 or more. Those who are exempt may adjust their hours for work in lieu of using vacation or sick leave during the 14-day pay period. So, for example, our pay period runs Thursday through Wednesday. So let's say in week 1 of the pay period you worked 50 hours. In week 2, you could work 30 hours, as long as you total 80 hours for the pay period. You may alternate your schedule as needed. Again, this is for exempt staff only. Exempt employees may have pay reduced if there is no comp time, vacation, or sick available, or if they have been approved for leave without pay, or they are on FMLA and the reason does not qualify for the use of sick leave, or if the reason does qualify for the use of sick leave and all the leave has been exhausted. Subject to certain legal exceptions, exempt employees will receive their full salary for any work week in which they perform any work without regard to the number of days or hours worked. Employee will be required to deduct from vacation or sick leave balances for hours or days missed. Listed on this slide are deductions in pay that may be made on an exempt employee. If an exempt employee believes they have had improper deductions from their paycheck, they should notify the immediate supervisor or human resources as soon as possible. If it is determined that an improper deduction has occurred, the employee will be reimbursed as promptly as possible, but no later than 2 pay periods from being notified of the problem. The incident will be documented and actions will be taken to prevent a reoccurrence. Payday is on a biweekly basis every other Friday. Direct deposit is the method of payment. A confidential direct deposit advice is accessible each pay period on Munis under Employee Self-Service. This concludes the overview of Article 2, the Pay and Position Classification Plan in the Iredell County Personnel Ordinance. Please note this presentation is not all-inclusive. To review details to the policies, it is your responsibility to review the ordinance, which may be located on the county's website under Employee Self-Service. Thank you.